everybody, and welcome to another episode of Kevin Creatives. Check out my custom master grade Dynames. And I'm crazy excited for this one, so you better strap yourselves in. This kit was announced in late 2018 and was released in early 2019. And I was super excited when I saw this release because it was not a mainline Gundam at all. It was a side character. You don't really see that too much. So I figured, alright, if we're getting the Dynames, the doors are open. Like, what else could we get? Not only that, I remember being hyped over the fact that the inner frame wasn't labeled as the Dynames inner frame. It was just, I believe, the GN inner frame, meaning that the possibility of a Kyrios and a Virtue was not out of the question. It was definitely very doable, and obviously we see now that that happened. So it was nice to have the pathways opened up from there moving forward. Another big factor was this kit was built from the ground up. I don't think it shared parts from any pre-existing kit. Bandai went out of their way to make sure that this kit was going to be awesome no matter what. Bandai went out of their way to make sure that this kit was going to stand out. Even though it's not a mainline design, they wanted to make sure that everybody knew about this guy. And I really feel that. The fact that this is such a unique design you don't typically see within any type of robot series, whether it's Gundam or not, I feel like the Dynames really sticks out, colors and all. So from a business perspective, I just thought that was interesting that they're gonna put so much money and effort into building a complete new mold, designing it, engineering it, and everything. Stuff like that is what catches my attention. When they're showing love, care, and quality in their work, that's what makes me want to buy it. I don't like the soulless feeling of some of their choices that they make as a business, obviously, but you can really tell when the designer cares about their work and wanted to make sure it stood out. Another really cool factor about this kit in particular is he comes with these cool holographic little sheets that go on the legs and the arms, the elbows, and the thighs, I believe, and the lower legs. And they shine in the light pretty cool. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but it looks really nice. Like I said, it's got like this holographic vibe. And they also included a GN drive that you can actually put an LED in. I wish I did that. I didn't really know what I was doing at the time with stuff like that. I still don't know anything about electronics. It's something I want to learn with simple stuff like this, but I'm typically not a big LED fan, but eventually we'll get there. And not only did they go ahead and develop this Dynames to be as great as it could be, so they even took into consideration that in the beginning of the show, he had one look to him, and then later on, he got some additional parts added on. So it's cool that you can choose if you want to have that early design versus the later design. Like I said, I can always appreciate when they go that extra mile, and you can tell that they did their homework and made sure this was going to be a great one. I think this is so far the first kit that I've bought that I built almost immediately after I bought it, because I knew I really wanted to do this Dynames right away. I couldn't help myself. That's how much I love this kit. So to start things off, I went ahead and did Gaia notes for the inner frame. I had just saw a video of some guy using an exclusive Gaia notes gunmetal that at the time I didn't know was exclusive, and I somehow got a hold of it and was able to paint it up, and it looks amazing. Once I did this, I knew this was it. No more. We're not going back. This is it. Gaia notes for metallics, and I'm so happy with the results. Especially with the Mr. Colored paints that I used for everything else, I think it works really well. The flat coat of all the colored parts versus the vibrancy of the metallic inner frame comes across really well in person, and I hope it comes across well in the video. This was one of my earlier builds as well. I believe this was only the fourth one I had done at the time, but I still wanted to try out a couple ideas that I had just from watching videos and stuff. So I masked off some of the brakes and the parts on the shield bits. You can see that I added that gunmetal color along it, so that pops out really nicely on the flat green, and you really see it come across there. I even went the extra mile and masked off some of the gunmetal colors and added some of silver on top of it just to break that up as well. And even then, at the time, I was thinking about how I could go that extra mile. Even when I was still pretty early into things, I knew that I wanted to take this as far as I could go. I even tried my hand at filling the seams on the pistols. I think this was the very first time that I had done any type of seam filling, and definitely didn't come out perfect. You know, that's how you start. I will say I do remember for the pistols as well as the rifle and the holsters on the sides of the legs, I did use the Mr. Color metal paints, and the way they work is you paint them on. They've got kind of a flat coat to them, and then you're supposed to polish them up. I tried it. Not for me. I tried it once or twice after this, and I just decided, you know what? I'm gonna have to use the Mr. Color Metal series in very specific situations because they don't work the way I would think they work in terms of a metallic color. So for example, the Mr. Color Iron that I use for the pistols and the side holsters, so they come across as more of like a pencil lead type of color rather than a shiny metallic titanium color, which is more of what I wanted. I also tried painting fluorescent colors on the green bits for the GN drive drives, and I think it works. I mean, I turn on the blue light and you can see it. It doesn't really shine in natural light, unfortunately, but if I added a few layers, I think it would do. Another really cool feature that they added on this kit were the missile pods, which I totally even forgot about. So I'm glad that they made sure to do their homework and really look into all the mechanisms of this design. One little regret I will say on the missile pods is I painted the inner frame around it first, and then I masked that off and did the orange, but I didn't do a flat coat over the orange, so it's just kind of shiny and glossy. Not a big deal because you never really see them, but I will say in the future I'm going to make sure to top coat even the missile parts. I thought maybe the glossiness would have worked for missiles, but not really. One thing that I really remember about this kit is painting all of the pre-shading took me forever. This had a lot of lines and grooves and things in it, and this was at a time where I was still doing pre-shading by just shading the specific areas, just going carefully along the lining, which is why that took forever, and then adding the secondary layer on top of it, the lighter green on top of it, that took forever just because there's a lot of big parts on this kit. But all said and done, I think it came out pretty well. Even though I have shifted over into doing more highlighting rather than pre-shading, I think the highlighting blends a bit better. I think this pre-shading still looks really nice on this kit. Another little complaint of mine is, again, with this Mr. Color Metallics, this black parts that you see, they're not actually black. I think they're supposed to be just straight gunmetal, but they just came out so dark that it just looks black, and I wasn't really happy about that, but oh well. As always, you live, you learn, and just moving forward, I don't really use this color. Another cool little hidden feature is the eye camera. He has that cool scope camera in his forehead that his head opens up, his feed fin comes down, the camera comes out, and the way they implemented that, I don't even know how. I don't. Whoever at Bandai is designing this stuff, you're doing great. I hope you know that. I will say that there is certain details that I missed out on. I hadn't quite decided to do all the little bits and pieces in metallic colors yet. I was still doing things with panel lines rather than just painting them in, and it's not a big deal. So you can see this is where I was transitioning from doing everything with panel lines to masking things off and adding the metallic bits. I did add the metallic bits in certain parts, and I even added an extra layer of silver to those bits, but there's still a lot of panel lines that I did, and while I do think they still look great, I have switched things over. These were done up in a black panel liner. Now when I do white parts, I do that with a dark gray, just so it doesn't stand out too much. I want it to be a little bit more subtle. I think the black's a bit harsh. Not bad, but I just want something a little bit different, and I think this was the last kit where I did black panel liner ink, and then from there on, did dark gray. Same thing with the red. I now do red parts with a brown panel liner. The darker colored parts like blue and green and stuff like that, I still do it with the black panel liner just because I do want it to pop in there. Another part that I'm also really happy about with this kit is the metallic yellow. That came out so nice on the thrusters. Once again, with the engineering, you open up the thrusters and then those yellow bits actually pop out. They come in and out, and that is just so freaking cool. The fact that it can do that. I'm telling you, these guys, they knew what they were doing, and I'm so glad that they just kept it going. I will say in terms of the metallic yellow, I was a little concerned at first. It didn't come off quite as vibrant and bright and yellow as I was hoping. It did come out as kind of a dulled, more lime-ish green yellow. That's okay. I actually don't have a problem with it. I actually think it looks really good with the Dynames. And just looking over this kit, I'm actually pretty surprised with how well the shading came out for the white bits. I was still kind of new to shading and stuff like that, especially with whites, and I gotta say, I'm happy with the consistency. Some of my kits, the whites can be a little off. I do think I've got the kinks worked out now, but at the time, for what I was doing, I'm a little surprised at it, even myself. And they added in an inner frame to the underside of these shield bits just so you can have the rivets stick out, and I definitely want to make sure I did that in metallic colors to make that pop. I mean, I figured, why waste that opportunity? So just looking over this kit as I'm recording everything, I gotta say, between my paint job and Bandai's engineering, this thing came out pretty fantastic. I love seeing all the little inner frame bits just poking out throughout the outer armor. That looks so great. It's such a nice contrast. And then also just all the moving parts that are just without it. This chest moves like crazy just so you can get the pose. The Dynames is known as a sniper, and I'm really glad that they made sure to take that into consideration when designing the upper body, so that way the arms can come out into the right position so he can hold the rifle properly. If you look at some of the other sniper model kits that they've done in the past, you can't hold the rifle the way you're supposed to. It's all a trick of the camera. Go back and look at some stock photos of the GM sniper, and he's not holding that rifle properly. It's just the way they have it angled with the photo. But this guy can actually hold the rifle the way it is meant to be held, and I freaking love that. I want to talk talk about the poncho for a second because I think it's a really cool and unique aesthetic choice for a robot design. I would have never thought to do that, and it just makes a lot of sense for a long-distance sniper to have some shielding around it. So that was a big reason why I really wanted to get this one, because I just think it looks really cool with that sort of wing-looking poncho aesthetic, and I was a little concerned. I have to be honest, as cool as I thought it was, I remember thinking when I first saw this in pictures and everything, how am I going to pose this? That looks like it's going to be totally in the way. How are we going to mess around with this? It looks like it's just going to be a pain to deal with. And boy, oh boy, am I happy to be wrong on this one. It is not. It is so smooth. It gets out of the way. It does not clunk around. It doesn't bump in anything. There's plenty of hinges. The mechanisms pull in and out to give it some breathing room as well. They just did such a good job. I'm telling you, I've said it so many times throughout this video. Whoever at Bandai was designing this thing, they crushed it. They really did. I don't know how else to say it. I really want to know exactly who worked on this kit because I want to know what other kits they worked on. I love this. I think I might just be a huge fanboy of whoever it is was working on this because they just put so much into it. There's just so much subtle little mechanics throughout this entire, from head to toe. There is just moving parts and mechanisms and things going about it that just come together so seamlessly. I don't understand. I really don't. How does this thing look so bulky and intrusive but not be? How is it able to have all of these big moving parts that feel like they should be a pain to deal with and be getting in its own way, but it's not? I just have to give it to them over at Bandai. So anyways, guys, as you can tell, I'm very happy about this kit. I love the design. I love the engineering. I love my paint job. I love everything about it. I mean, really, how much more good things can I say about it? I highly recommend this kit. Give it a shot. I will say, the one thing I will say, don't do this as your first kit. This is a special one. I don't know what to tell you. This is a very special kit in the way it's engineered. They really, really crushed it. I would say hold off, get your hands on it, put it away, do some practice. That way you can do this one as awesome as you can. And I think with that being said, take it easy and we'll see you again.